So now that we have a market and we know where prices come from, let's see what happens when the economy changes. How will the price and quantity move? Now again, we can't say it enough, suppliers and demanders are different, so the things that affect the economy in the demand side won't necessarily be the same things that affect the supply. Take a brief pause and remind yourself the items on the list. Here we've got a significant market change over the past decade. The percentage of retail sales going to e-commerce across the world. It's been growing from 7% up to nearly a quarter. And the question everyone is asking is whether or not Amazon and other e-retailers have destroyed department stores and malls. The first observation here is that even though Amazon is huge, brick and mortar stores by far are still the largest form of retail. Reflect yourself. Did you visit a brick and mortar store this week? Where do you do your grocery shopping? Does this match in line with your experience? Or do you do something different than the average? We certainly are seeing a decline in department stores over the past decade. Fascinatingly, most of them are simply converted into a different type of retail. The next largest category are mixed use, meaning residential, office, and retail together in the mall. They're turned into warehouses, to just residences, to delivery, distribution, and fulfillment stations. So Amazon kills a mall, but turns the mall into their distribution center. And then the real estate gets turned into a whole smorgasbord of other things, such as colleges, churches, call centers. One of them got turned into a police precinct. Now, as far as thinking about this, what curve has been shifting for the past decade? Consumers are changing their behavior, yes, but the rise of e-commerce is a change in technology. It's going to be a supply shift. Additionally, Amazon is a growing retailer, adding to the number of suppliers. Both of these are going to be a positive supply shock. The new equilibrium will depend on how this supply curve shifts. If we get a supply increase, then we get higher quantity, more stuff, and lower prices. Honestly, this is the best kind of shift there is. Supply and demand find their respective prices and quantity. This gives us an equilibrium. Better technology and more producers on the market mean a positive supply shift. For each and every price, there's a greater quantity supplied on the market. There we see the low prices for consumers and the higher quantity, more affordable things. Ta-da! Let's do another shock. Looking at the market for cookie delivery. Let's say we're recovering from a recession. Incomes are rising. Everybody's willing to buy more and more cookies at the same price. This will give us more expensive cookies, but also more of them. So positive demand shocks are good, but they come with higher prices though. Now let's do a negative demand shock. We'll do the market for physical books. Yeah, you know where this is going. Here's the shock over the past 20 years. The price of e-readers and e-books plummets. Reading on a Kindle or a Nook or even just a PDF is so much easier than it used to be. This falls under the category of a fall in the price of a substitute. Demand for physical books plummets, and so what happens to the market? Lower prices, but less stuff. Now let's do a negative supply shock. This was ubiquitous during the pandemic. Supply chain blockages everywhere. That big giant evergreen ship blocked up the Suez Canal in Egypt. Factories were temporarily closed. All of this increased the costs for the firm. At higher costs, they have less supply. The new market equilibrium yields us higher prices and less stuff. This is the worst. This is the worst kind of shock. We hate this kind of thing. We hate it. So let's do the best kind of shock. Positive supply. Delivery robots. More stuff for cheap. But agricultural robots. The machines we see in agriculture are just astounding. And all of this means cheaper food for everybody. We lower hunger, increase nutrition, and allow us to spend more of our budget on other things. I can't say it enough, getting things like this to happen are the primary cause to long-run material prosperity. It's the kind of thing we want to encourage. So that was one curve at a time. What if we have to do two at once? Increasing technology has made batteries cheaper. That's one change. But on the other, consumers have grown in their distaste for smog and become more environmentally conscious. Another shock to the market. What curves are going to shift? The first one is a positive supply shock and the second one is a positive demand shock. What's going to happen to price and quantity? Let me get myself out of the way here. Here's the old market with its price and quantity equilibrium. Positive demand shock for more consumers wanting it, and positive supply shock from cheaper technology. And this yields us higher quantities and lower prices. But notice something. We made a choice about how strong the relative shift could be. In this case, if you look kind of closely there, the supply shifted a lot more than the demand did. What if that weren't the case? What if the demand had the bigger shift? We can see the new equilibrium still has an increased quantity, but now the price goes up. So there's a bit of ambiguity here. When we have both a demand and a supply supply shock happening at the same time, we're not sure what's going to happen to both variables. My advice is to graph it out, do 2 shifts. One of them has a big demand shift, the other one has a big supply shift, and you'll find which one, either price or quantity, is going to be pretty clear. So in this case, we know either way we're going to get more electric cars. Whether the increased technology is more important or whether the change in consumer preferences is more important, we get more electric cars. But the question we'd want to know is, well, what's going to happen to the price of cars? This takes us to a next step of analysis. If you have some information, if you have some reason to believe that the increased technology is going to be a huge shock, at least relative to the consumer shift and environmental conscientiousness, then you can conclude that we're most likely in the scenario where prices will continue to fall. I hope that made sense there. Again, my advice, graph this out on a piece of paper, practice this a lot, draw lots of supply and demand curves. The goal is to memorize these tools so you can find the answer all on your own.